Okay, so here I am comparing the XE-5 to the XM-5. Now, off the top, or right out of the gate, one of the clear differences is that the XM-5 is clearly smaller than XE-5, and also kind of just like weight-wise, it is much lighter than that of the XE-5. Now, one thing I will say is a lot of people tend to knock the build quality of the XM-5. But personally, in my opinion, I do feel the camera is actually well built. I do feel it's sturdy. Um, and I'll kind of get into a reason why that's a little bit of an advantage over the XE-5. Some of the other key differences here is the XE-5 has a viewfinder, whereas the XM-5 does not, just an EVF. The other thing to kind of know is that if you really wanted to kind of know the gist of comparing these two cameras, the XE-5 is basically an X100VI with interchangeable lens. The XM-5 is basically the X100V or X100VI with an interchangeable lens. That's essentially, if you needed to compare the tech, that's basically the main differences between the two. In terms of just like usability and kind of form factor, so to speak, one advantage that the XE-5 has is that it does have the film simulation dial here that allows you to straight up just use your film recipes at the flip of a dial. Oddly enough, the XM-5 also has a film dial, but stupidly, and I still don't understand this, like, it does not allow you to put your film recipes on the F2, F1, F2, F3, and instead you have to put it on C1, C2, C3. And with that, it's not as, I would say, friendly or in terms of like using the recipes as that of the XE-5. Now, if I had to kind of compare the two in terms of like the photo quality, photography skills aside, in my opinion, obviously the XE-5 has, far superior tech than that of the XM-5. But realistically, if you're to kind of put these photos side by side using similar recipes, using similar lenses, you're kind of gonna be hard pressed to kind of notice the difference between the two, especially that for like layman's people. Like, I don't think they're gonna be able to like really kind of tell the difference. However, when it comes to a photo capturing experience, I do feel the XE-5 is a better experience because of, a little bit more of the flexibility of all the dials, the ability to have the film simulation dial right there, and the fact that it does have a viewfinder. But I don't feel it's as compelling enough of a reason in terms of the photo capture experience versus the video capturing experience of that of the XM-5. Now, granted, this does not have a viewfinder and it does not have IBIS, whereas the XE-5 and the X100VI do have IBIS. However, technically, the XM-5, oddly enough, is superior to that of the XE-5. The XM-5, smaller guy, can shoot 6.2 open gate in the 3:2 aspect ratio, whereas the XE-5 can only shoot 6:2 in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So you're getting the full use of the frame of the APCS sensor than that of the XE-5. In addition, and it's not really spoken about in many videos, I'm kind of surprised about this, the XM-5 is meant for like social media creators or content creators like on the run, on the go, need, to kind of create videos quick and fast. And there's two features here on this camera that no other Fuji camera has, and that's the ability to shoot vertical natively right out of the camera. It will be cropped perfectly for 9:16 and 1080p, but you can do that with the XM-5, and you can't do that with any of the other Fujifilm cameras, at least natively out of the camera over Wi-Fi. The other feature that I hear no one talk about is the ability to shoot filter videos on the XM-5 versus, as far as I can tell, other Fuji cameras. So for example, on the XM-5, if I want to shoot a video using a toy effect filter or a miniature effect filter, you can do that natively on the Fuji XM-5, but that feature, at least software-wise, does not exist on the other Fujifilm cameras, and especially not on the XE-5. So from a video capture experience, I do feel the XM-5, despite lacking IBIS, and to be frank, even with IBIS enabled on the XE-5 and the X100VI, I still feel like it was okay. It wasn't that great. And in that regards, it's still, I wouldn't say negligible, but like the difference or the leap going from like video without IBIS to video with IBIS on the Fuji system was not, spectacular. It was not like leaps and bounds. The other thing I'll note is that, as I kind of mentioned, the camera is light. So when you're kind of shooting video on the XM-5 versus the XE-5, I do feel that the lightweight of the XM-5 just makes it a little bit more of an easier, simpler experience in terms of capturing video than that on the other Fuji cameras, especially for social media content creation. Also, with it being a smaller camera body, granted with like the lenses being probably usually bigger than the camera itself or weighing more than the camera itself, I know there's going to be an imbalance on, when holding the camera, but again, the combined weight just makes this a little bit easier to shoot video on the XM-5 versus that of, other cameras like the XE-5. Now, in terms of, again, as I kind of mentioned, the photo capturing experience, while I do feel it's better on the XE-5 than that of the XM-5, specifically because of the viewfinder, I didn't personally feel the XM-5 was like a bad photo capturing experience. In fact, I still feel it's great, actually. I do feel kind of that the shutter on this camera, it feels great. I like the tactile feedback that you kind of get out of it. And, as I kind of mentioned, in terms of like versatility, this, in my opinion, compared to the XE-5 is, not that far behind. And I especially believe that with like the video experience here is better than XE-5, better than the X100VI. So when kind of comparing the two, I do feel like, look, if you don't have either of these cameras and you're trying to choose which is between the two, if you're a content creator, if you're a content, you like to, create quick videos and you're going for travel, I will say the XM-5, despite being a budget entry, despite being kind of a, little bit of a cheaper build quality, but I don't feel it's cheap. I still feel this is like fantastic. I do feel the XM-5 is better for those who are creating social content in a way for a travel camera. If you want to go get an EDC camera, an everyday carry camera, yes, the XE-5 I do feel is, probably that. And again, the video experience here, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not as good as that of the XM-5. So if I had to kind of choose between the two, given that, I create social content, I do a lot of work that requires quick social media content, the XM-5 is, oddly enough, the better choice for me to go with. Lightweight, smaller, more versatile in video, and in terms of taking photos, in my opinion, despite having the lack of an EVF, I still feel it's not that far behind the XE-5, and even in some ways like the X100VI. Now, if I had both, all three cameras, like in this case where I have the X100VI and the XE-5 and the XM-5, what would I choose? I would probably say between, I guess, the three cameras, yes, the XE-5 is a bit of like the compromise between the three, where you kind of get a little bit of the X100VI, but you get the lens adaptability of the XM-5. However, if I could say two of the three cameras, I'm going to go with the X100VI, just because it's a little bit more, I would say, travel friendly slash carry friendly with its built-in lens and the ND filter and the flash already included, and having an EVF slash OVF, right? Versus the XE-5. And I would get the XM-5 for the video capturing experience.